In this video, we're going to talk about 3 ways to scale your coaching business and why most people aren't successful at it. Scaling your business. It's one of the big buzzwords and buzz topics out there. I think for good reason, because scaling a business is really the only way that you can create the kind of freedom and growth and more tangible success that people want to start their businesses to experience. So if you don't scale, and we're going to define scaling here in a moment, if you don't scale your business, you're basically just limited by your own capacity. So scaling your business is something where you can move the impact of your business and the growth and the income and all that beyond just your own personal capacity or desire. Maybe you actually have the capacity to work 20 hours a day, but you don't want to. And so you want to work 2 hours a day and scale so that you can still build beyond the time that you're putting into the business. So either the time you want to put in the business or the time that you're able to put into the business, scaling beyond that is what a lot of people are wanting to do. So that's a really good piece of business. And it's a very attractive one, which is why a lot of marketers are talking about it, because people are looking for it. People are demanding it and they're hungry for it at some degree. The problem with that is when there's a demand for something, then there's always a supply that shows up for it, but then it sometimes can get morphed a little bit, meaning that through the process of marketing competition, people continue to get or continue to create better and better and better and better offers. And a lot of times those better offers cross the line of possibility, but people are still buying it. So I think that's where the idea of scaling has gotten to some degree. Not to say that everybody who's talking about scaling is talking about it in a way that's not possible, but there are plenty of them that are either not possible or not aligned. So I can teach you how to scale my business, or how I scaled my business, or what we're doing right now in our business. And if you're not where I am, then my scaling mechanisms won't matter. Not only will they not matter, they're actually dangerous to you if you try to implement things that are too far ahead of you or just simply misaligned. So you've got to look at everything that you're looking for help and support with through the filter of whether it's aligned for you. Because there's a lot of stuff that's good, but you shouldn't be doing it. It's fantastic for other people. Other people are making millions of dollars on it with it, and you won't make anything. Or even if you do make a lot of money, it'll be a different version, an inauthentic version of yourself. So you got to know what it is that you're really looking for. But that's tough, because that means we need to know ourselves and we need to know what kind of business we're actually trying to build. And that's a very difficult thing to do on our own. But I think that's one of the reasons that people struggle with the idea of scaling is it's sexy and misaligned for a lot of people.
I also think it requires you to know where you are. And a lot of us don't even know where we are right now. So we can't even tap into the alignment piece because we're not even sure like where we're actually at inside of our business building, and or what our desires are and what's actually important to us at this particular moment in time that would allow us to be able to discern if any of these scaling techniques, whether they're morphed. That was a good word, by the way. I was impressed with that. Whether they're morphed or not, if they're the right thing for us at this moment.
Yeah, a set of directions require 2 points, a starting point and an ending point. I think what most people are getting are sets of directions with just ending points.
Correct.
So if we don't know where you're starting, then the set of directions is going to be useless because we don't know where you are and you don't know where you are. And that's a scary thing for a lot of people, just because we don't want to admit where we are, or we just don't like looking at ourselves for whatever reason, or we think it's not relevant, whatever the case is. I think a lot of people don't have their own authentic starting point of where they are. So yeah, that's a big deal. So I think there are 3 big reasons that people need to be aware of when it comes to scaling. Well, let me say that again. 3 reasons that people don't scale their business successfully. And then inside that conversation, we'll talk about when you know it's time to scale your business. So the first one, we'll just say all 3 of them first. It's clarity, capacity, and calibration. The first one is clarity. And that's basically the strategy. A lot of people don't scale their business because they don't know how, they don't know when, they don't know why, they don't know who, they don't know what. There's so much focus on the elements of scaling, the platforms that we should use, how we should post, when we should post, time management stuff. And all of those things are valid. Every single one of them is valid. And if you don't have clarity on where you are, then a lot of these things are potentially valid and useless. So they're valid and maybe helpful for somebody else, but they're useless for you because we don't know your starting point. And it's really difficult to get clarity on the next step if you don't know where you are now. So clarity, just the concept of clarity by itself, I think is intimidating to some people, absolutely scary to some people. And yet it's what so many people are seeking. I mean, we hear all the time a version of what should I do? Whether it's what's the next thing I should do? What's the thing I should focus on? What platform should I be on? How many times a week should I post? And our answer is always, where are you? You know, it's a version of, I don't know, where are you? Tell me who you are first. And it's fascinating to me, and I say this without judgment, just with more curiosity, but it's fascinating that even if we ask that question, how many people don't have the ability to answer that question. And we say this with advocacy and love because we want you to win. If you don't have clarity on where you are, then there is no clarity that can help you take the next step. It doesn't exist because we don't know where you are. But if you won't look at that and you won't find the clarity of where you are, you're going to be seduced by a lot of next steps that sound really good. And it's hard to tell. Dare I say it's impossible to tell what directions are not going to be helpful for you if you don't know where you're starting from.
Yeah.
Because the directions will sound really good.
100%. All the destinations will sound really good. And they probably are all really good. But you have like, and I so did this, and I see this so often with so many of the coaches that I talk to. It's because we're just trying to brush past all of the stuff that's potentially uncomfortable or potentially has shame or embarrassment. I mean, maybe you've been in business for a little while and you don't have these answers, and that doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good to be like, you know, here at this moment, and you've been doing this thing for whatever, a couple of years, and you actually don't know this information yet. But if you don't know that, then there's no there's no shame or judgment coming from us at all. Just that's the first step, right? So that's the first step, is to figure out who you are and what it is that you want and where you're at in your journey, so that then you can have the discernment, right, to be able to hear these amazing offers and be like, that's awesome, and that's not for me, or that's fantastic and that's not for me right now. I actually don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. I don't care about these things. I was literally on the phone with a client earlier today who's inside of a program with the purposes of training her to get a skill set that she does not want.
there something wrong with that?
Yeah. And feeling like,
But
why I should push through. I just need to buckle down and make this happen. And I should like, this is valuable for you right now.
Right. One of the things that we've been really dissecting, and we've been thinking about this for years, but it's becoming more and more clear, is why we buy the things that we buy that are just not useful for us. I
Right.
think all of us at some point has bought something because we were excited and we just bought it and it actually wasn't helpful. I mean, I have a lot of those things. So I'm not saying that with any level of judgment or shame or you're stupid because you just buy stuff. And part of that is ambition. You know, when we're ambitious and we want to work hard, we're going to buy things. And some of the things that we buy or we invest into are just going to end up not being aligned for us. So I don't want to put any shame on the idea of buying things and not using them. But some people buy things that by all measures, they just never should have bought. And we don't see when we're in that situation a lot of times because our vision is too cloudy or we're too desperate to be able to discern. We don't see that there's no alignment here whatsoever. And I know we can look back at things that we've done or things that we've purchased, and we've talked to a lot of people that looking back just say, I mean, why did I even pay any attention at all, let alone investing a lot of money or investing time? And the clarity that you just spoke to of where you want to go and what's success for you is really critical, because without that, then people a lot of times are just buying clarity. They're just paying for things that sound really clear and they sound really, really good.
Wow.
But if you're buying somebody else's destination or somebody else's set of directions, they won't work for you, or at least not the whole thing. We're not saying that there aren't certain ingredients in other people's recipes that can't be used for yours, of course. But the more clarity you lack in where you are and where you want to go, the more susceptible you will be in buying things that are not aligned for you. And then forget, oh, I'm learning a skill that I don't want to have, or I'm trying to build a business that I actually don't want.
Bingo.
But we can't recognize that we don't want unless and until we have some clarity. So the takeaway for this is, no matter how uncomfortable it is, get as clear as you possibly can with who you are right now, where you are right now in terms of the journey of, if you want to be a coach, you know, where are you on that journey of transformation or business building and growth and so forth? And what is it that you need next? If you don't know what you need next, then a good sales person will sell you anything, because you don't have enough clarity to recognize, oh, that's not actually what I need. So that's good, that's valuable, that's cool, and that's not for me. And people don't know that. So it's why one of the, things that we offer all the time and talk about the importance of all the time is personal attention. And if any of you need support, you want support in that, then register for a free, no obligation consultation with one of our coaches. And it might be the most important thing that you get is clarity on who you are and what your next step is. Because then you go, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And that narrowing of the focus is what's going to create more momentum and more action and more sense of progress. And it's the only thing that could potentially give you any fulfillment. Because if you don't know what it is that you're looking for, then it doesn't matter what you buy. Even the right thing, you can get the thing that's actually right for you. But if you don't know where it is that you're wanting to end up, then even the right thing is going to be wrong because of your lack of clarity. Anything you want to add to that before moving on to number 2?
Number 2.
Number 2 is capacity. Are you even capable of scaling? I would say 95% of the people, and I'm being conservative with that estimate, if they are trying to scale, they're trying to scale in a way that they don't have the capacity for. And there's two types of capacity, internal and external. I want to start with external first. For instance, people might be putting up a Facebook ad because they heard somebody say that they did a Facebook ad and they made $40,000 in a weekend.
Right.
Or they did a Facebook ad and they sold 100 products over a week, whatever it is. So we like the outcome of that. And we go, oh, if I want, because of course I'd like to make a bunch of money in a weekend, or I'd like to sell 100 products. That's great. So what do I have to do? Oh, Facebook ad. So then let me just do the Facebook ad. We just play follow the leader with the path that's not our path.
Right.
So if you buy into that and you say, okay, I'm going to put the money out for a Facebook ad, I think a lot of people who are doing that or thinking about doing that are in a lose-lose scenario, because if the Facebook ad doesn't work, you're going to be frustrated and maybe get upset at yourself or whatever. And by the way, almost all Facebook ads don't work in the early phases. Like it's almost built to not work, right? You just got to get something out there and get the feedback and see the process. And it takes a while. There's a runway for airplanes for a reason, because you can't just turn the ignition on and then take off. You got to go for a while, right? I don't think I've thought about that analogy in terms of this context. And most people don't have the fuel for the runway. That fuel could be support. It could be money. It could be energy. It could be expectations. You know, most people just want their plane to just take off like a helicopter. That's not how it works. So Facebook ads require a ramping up period. And everybody I've ever talked to, even people that I've hired to run ad campaigns, know that, and they'll say that. So a lot of people just don't understand the process. But even if your Facebook campaign or whatever you're trying, doesn't have to be Facebook, did work to the way that you want it to work, it'd probably be the worst thing for you. Because if you don't have the internal capacity, and now I'm talking about structure, I'm not talking about in you, but internal capacity in your business. Right. If you had 1,000 people that came into your business and started sending a bunch of emails and asking you about the program and where do I buy, and I wasn't able to get the shopping cart to work, and okay, where do I start this thing? And then you have people that are now wanting to know how to implement it, and they're asking for a Facebook group. Like, the influx of success is quickly replaced by the influx of responsibility that most of you don't have the structure to hold.
Right.
You don't have the capacity to answer all the questions or to create the thing that all those people need, right? So one of the worst things that can happen to an immature business structure is a lot of weight be put on it. You know, you think about a building. If a building doesn't have foundation, the worst thing you can do is build on it because it doesn't have foundation. We don't like the idea of setting foundation or making sure we have operations on the back end. We don't like that idea because that's not the sexy part. We just want to get to the $40,000 in a weekend.
Yes, please.
But most people don't actually have the external or internal business structures to handle the success that they're wanting. So it's actually a good thing that you don't have this windfall of success that would just collapse your company on itself.
To me, this ties into the clarity piece as well, right? Which is not surprising that these are connected, but just understanding what is it that myself as an individual and my business as it is right now has the capacity to hold, right? I know a lot of people are like, I want to be like a full-time coach. I want to have 20 plus clients. Do you even have the schedule space for that? Do you have
Right.
the follow-up systems, all the things that you were talking about? And so we have to be willing to like really take an honest evaluation. And this doesn't mean that this is where you're going to be for forever, but this is where you are right now. And it's important to have that information so that you can make the next best move for where you are right now, so that you can have the sustainability, right? Like that was, I'm glad you defined scaling, honestly, at the beginning, because I have thoughts about it, but it's never been anything that I've been chasing in my journey, because I really was interested in building something that was sustainable, which requires that foundation piece. I didn't want to go like too big, too fast, because there's just there, I've seen too many times there are lessons that one needs to learn when building a business, and it's easier to learn them in the beginning stages before you are super successful than before you have that 10-story building and you realize you have no foundation. So,
Or you realize that's not the building that you want to build.
Yeah.
Which goes back to what you said about clarity.
Yes.
Because I can sell you the blueprints for a skyscraper and it's a fantastic skyscraper. But what if it's not the one you want? What if it's actually not going to give you what you want in your life? Then it can be both fantastic and wrong for you. But that requires the clarity as you tied it back. So the other piece of capacity is internal capacity, meaning like emotional capacity or identity capacity. Do you as a person have the capacity for the success that your scaling endeavors could bring you? So let's think about visibility and the spotlight. If you want the kind of impact or income that one of your mentors or one of your idols in the speaking industry, let's say, or coaching industry has, so you follow their scale structure, but you're afraid to speak, or you're afraid of visibility, or you don't have the internal confidence or certainty that you can actually help people with your coaching, your internal lack of capacity when it comes to confidence and certainty, I'm going to deliver this with humor because it's more of a sad story than it is a funny story. Your lack of internal capacity will unplug every cord. It will sabotage every attempt. Absolutely. It will make sure everything you try does not work, because that internal lack of capacity is terrifying at a deep emotional level, but it's unconscious a lot of times because we don't have the clarity, because we don't know what we're trying to build. We don't even know if we have the capacity. So the takeaway, I think, for this, for all of you, is to take a really honest look at yourself internally. Do you have the body for the kind of success that your scaling activities might bring you? Most people will answer that question no. Or the truth for most people is no. Whether they answer the question no, or they have the conscious awareness that it's actually a no. But most of us are more internally scared than we realize. And a lot of times what we're actually afraid of is success. We did a video on this not too long ago, so we'll put a card here and a link in the description, where most of us are more afraid of success than failure. But because we don't understand that and we don't confront that, then we might not realize what we're talking about here is that our potential for success is actually greater than our capacity for success.
Yep. And the body wins.
But only all the time.
Every single time.
The body only will overpower the mind every single time.
100%. Yeah. It's way stronger, right? Like it's way stronger than any program you'll take, any course that you'll buy, any scaling technique or system or
Yeah.
promise or skill set, your body's protection is a million times stronger than your willpower.
Right. And going back to another thing that you said earlier that is really important. It's not right for most people. Like what most people are following is not right for most people. The scaling mechanisms, the Facebook visibility, the ad campaigns, most people don't need any of that stuff actually to just be happy, just helping people. You know, so what most people think is required to build a successful and fulfilling business is not, because it's not aligned with you. And when it is, then do that. But build your foundation first. And a lot of people will actually recognize that they have a lot more fulfillment in creating the foundation or building a sustainable business, or in the coaching world, just helping people and making a few $100s a month. That's actually more fulfilling than building and then running and then being responsible for and then managing a $20,000 a month business that you end up resenting and not even liking. I'm telling you, trying to manage that, and I'm speaking from personal experience, is way more devastating. So build into that. Whatever that is for you, build into that, but build into it with personal knowledge as much as you possibly can. Get the support, whether it's a free consultation with us or other people, get the support to have as much clarity as you possibly can. Because the thing about clarity is, with the right amount of clarity, then you'll know when you're off path. But without clarity, you won't know when you're off path. Right. And that might be the most valuable thing, is to recognize, all right, I got these blueprints. I start building this building. And before we started laying the cement, I had an internal feeling, this is not right. This is not the building that I want to build. So let's cut the cord now. Let's cut the contract on this building now. That's what clarity gives people, that I think a lot of us don't understand the real value of being able to see when we're off path. The third C I kind of alluded to there is calibration. What I mean by calibration is, when are you ready? But not you emotionally, your business. So when is your business ready? Because it doesn't matter what you want. What matters is when your business is ready. So you can spend 5 years, 10 years filling your mind with all this business information, and you can understand a bunch of stuff intellectually, but you don't have any business foundation. So the more that you might grow in your thinking actually might create more distance between what you think you're ready for, or what you want, or what you're wishing for, and what your business is ready for. And there's no amount of motivation that will rush the evolution of your business. It's like, if you want a child really, really bad, it's going to take 9 months. It doesn't matter how much you want that child, or toward the end of pregnancies for a lot of women, how much you don't want the child anymore, or how much the parents are like, oh, we did the right thing. Like, listen, this train is already on the tracks. This thing is happening in the timing that it requires. And of course, there are details of difference in the actual birthing of humans, and also in business, because there's so many variables in the different recipes that are unique to us and our seekers and our circumstances, and whether there's a pandemic, and like, there's a lot of stuff to put into this. But there's an evolution of business that cannot be rushed. And I think most people are trying to get out ahead of their business. But I think there are some people who have a business that is ready for scaling, and they actually want to scale, but they don't recognize that they're ready to scale. And I think almost anything that we say about this topic is going to come back to clarity, because how can you recognize that you're ready for floor number 2 if you don't really understand the building that you're creating, and you don't understand the size of floor 1, and you don't understand when it's time to start building floor 2? So calibration is is your business ready? Now, this isn't just a capacity question, although part of calibration is capacity, but part of it is the evolution of your branding, of your messaging, of your product. You know, a lot of people in the coaching world are trying to create leverage by building an online course, which seems to be, you know, the greatest thing since sliced whatever. But they've never had a coaching client. They've never proven that the thing that they want to sell is valuable to anybody, valuable enough that anybody's going to pay them for it.
Right.
So that's a situation where I think a lot of people are trapped in right now, where they're trying to scale beyond the calibration of their business.
Right.
And I personally believe that nobody should, well, I can't say nobody. I can say nobody, but I'm going to remove nobody. I personally believe that almost nobody should sell online courses until they've had a lot of private coaching clients. Because the way that you deliver something powerful to people in a group is to know each one of them individually and know that you've delivered something powerful to each one of them in a group of one. Then you can take what you've learned and you can start scaling from a delivery standpoint. How do you scale beyond? And contrary to what a lot of people think and a lot of people wished were true, it's actually really difficult to serve a group of people without serving one of those groups of people. It's really difficult. It sounds sexy. It sounds fantastic to be able to get 100 people to pay $100 and now you make $10,000 rather than all this one-on-one trading time for money thing that we've, I think, been conditioned out of as being valuable. But your group program will probably suffer if you don't have experience coaching people one-on-one. Now, there might be a small percentage of people teaching a small percentage of things that don't fit what I just said. But almost everybody that watches these videos on this channel, you're not one of them, because you would have turned away a long time ago, because we're not speaking to you. So that's what calibration really means in the evolution of the business. Is this business ready to go to the next level? And so when I'm coaching somebody on building a group program and they say something like, how many modules does it take? Or how many modules should I put in there? Or what should I teach in my modules? My questions are, what do you teach your clients? How long does it take your individual clients to get to that point? If you are going to create a program that's going to produce the transformation that you want, based on all the information that you have with all of your private one-on-one clients, how long do you think that's going to take? What would you teach? What are the steps that your clients go through? That's the content of your group program. And most of the time, they can't answer that question with any level of experiential clarity because they haven't coached enough clients.
Yes. You said at the beginning of this that in this context, it doesn't matter what you want, right? It's about what your business is ready for. And what I thought is, I'm like, here it is. This is a place where it doesn't matter what your desire is. It matters where your business is honestly at. But in the other stages, in the foundation part, Sean, right? That's where it does matter what you want. That's where your desire actually does belong, is over there in that place. What is it that you want to build? What is it that you want to create? How much time do you want to put in? What kind of business? You know, you've done a great training. We'll put a link up in the description. Maybe I'll put a card up here for a video where you've broken down like the different types of businesses, right? That we can have as coaches, and to really understand that that's where your desire comes in, not in this calibration piece where it's really about what's your business telling you that it's actually ready for.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Most of us are trying to motivate our businesses to be something. It's like, you bought a cat and then you realized you wanted to be a dog. It doesn't matter how much you could be the best motivational speaker in the world and you're not changing that cat to a dog, or
No.
you're not going to rush the evolution process of a kitten to a cat or a puppy to a dog either.
Right.
And I'm glad you brought up those three stages really of business. And most people would be happier and more successful in stage one, but almost everything that's being taught out there is for stages 2 and 3. Even if they're right, if you don't have stage one successful, then stage 2 and 3 are just beyond your capacity. You haven't calibrated the business in order to get there. Now, having said all this stuff, it is powerful to scale a business. And part of that could be automation systems where you get a platform to deliver your online course content, or you get a platform to deliver your emails automated. But you don't want to automate anything that you don't currently have, right? I want you to think of scaling as a multiplier. Anything times 0 is still 0, you guys. So what a lot of people are trying to do is build a business based on scaling, but they don't have anything to scale yet. You've got to have a thing to scale, and then you can multiply. That's why making sure that your message is being purchased by people in the form of one-on-one coaching or products that you put out, you've got to have something that is viable. In the business world, in the traditional business world, it's called minimum viable product. You've got to have a product before anybody would come in and spend a ton of money on an infomercial. They need to know that this product is going to be purchased by people, and then they'll scale it up. And then the infomercial looks really sexy. But if you don't have a product that people are going to buy, and you spend $500,000 or $10 million on an infomercial, you're probably going to get a pretty sore ouchie on the other side of that experiment, because you don't know how to sell it to people. So it is possible, once you get to that point, to scale a business in fantastic ways and increase your income, increase your impact, increase your free time, which is what most people are wanting from a business to some degree. But you've got to be ready for it. And as we've said, if you want any support with knowing whether you're ready now or how to get ready to be ready to do the things that you really want to do and have the business that you want to have, then click on the link and have a free consultation so that we can help you with that level of clarity. If you like this video, check out that video right there. It's all about the 6 core coaching skills that you absolutely need to be successful. The problem with that is then the mind starts looking for, when can I quit? So if we have a line that says you can quit when you hit this ceiling, the truth is you'll probably